welcome senators, fellow JCs, judges, and guests. Leaving a footprint, leaving your footprint. The first thing I thought of when I heard the topic is the last thing that I'm going to kind of tell you about tonight. And what really is a footprint? It's an impression made by an event. Something that when you look back, you can see that's what I went through. That's where I've been. And really I want to talk about three things. And the first one, I call it a life of privilege. Growing up, I grew up in a family where we were able to do anything we wanted to do. My dad was a dentist. He afforded us a lifestyle that we were able to travel, to pretty much do whatever. As a child, we talked about being a child growing up, we were able to do anything. My family, my mother actually, an amazing woman. She, in our travels, one of the times we drove to, I think we were on our way to Vancouver. And I don't know if you've got little kids, but we had me, my brother, and my sister all traveling in a little car. We're all three in the back. You can imagine what Leslie's touching me, Wayne's poking me, and you can imagine 5, 10, we were going to Vancouver, so it was about a 9-hour trip, but with kids, that can turn out to be who knows how many hours. And my dad, he was a neat guy. He wanted to just get to where he was going. He just wanted to go. But Mom realized the more we drove, the more this would happen, right? So she was neat. She'd get us to stop, and she'd say, "Pull over, Oz. We gotta take a break." And we'd stop, and we'd be just wanting to do something. My mom, and I think this is kind of where I got my competitive spirit. My mom decides that we're gonna have running races. So, and she wouldn't just get all of us to run once. She would make heats. A couple people would run, and then the next couple would run, and the winners of those races would then pair off and run some more. But you know what was really neat? I was the youngest. I was probably maybe 9 years old at the time. And I remember the last heat, my brother, me, and my mom. And I'm boogieing. And my brother, he'd been worn out by now because I think he had maybe about 5 races. So I'm boogieing, I'm beating him, and my mom, my mom was an athlete. But somehow, I don't know whether I was that great or, she just kind of eased off, but I got to win. So, that's a life of privilege. I got to raise my hands, and we were wiped. The rest of the trip, there wasn't so much a mission. So I don't know if you travel with kids, try that. That's a neat thing. But the next part was, and I remember this distinctly. I was at my friend Pat Hardy's house, sitting on his trampoline. We were bouncing around, and I got the call that my dad had an aneurysm. I'm a kid. I was in grade 9, so I really didn't know what that meant. But I remember sitting on the trampoline, and the door opens, and it was Pat's dad, and he looks out. "Your brother's on his way. He's coming to pick you up. You have to go to the hospital." I was shocked, and got there, and at that time, my dad, he was fine. And then he had a relapse, and they had to rush him to Calgary. And man, going from having anything that you could ever imagine to he never did get to work again, so we weren't able to do all those things. And that kind of spiraled me into, I was in grade 9, so I started getting into the wrong crowd, started drinking, and started doing all sorts of bad stuff. But fortunately, never got into drugs or anything like that. But I tell you, that was a tough time in my life. And really I did get into those rebellious times and things like that. But I remember the last day. It was March 31st, 1989. Drinking, partying, just bad times. But I remember on the way home from this party, checking all these cars, trying to find a vehicle. I didn't want to go in and steal anything. I was just so drunk. I wanted to sit down. I needed a rest. And I found one. I sat down and had a rest. And I remember waking up, fortunately waking up, about 2 or 3. Can you imagine? The next morning, some mom walks out and sees a little black kid sitting in the car. Wouldn't be so good. But I made my way home, and that night I remember everything in my room. Everything that I had drank was kind of around my room. That was the last day I drank. My anniversary of drinking, 20 years, a week ago. So that was my life of rebellion. But now, really quickly, the next part is my life of example. And my kids, I'm able to now be the example and help my kids with sports. And I was able to go down and watch my child, I'm an assistant coach, and watch him win a soccer tournament down in Sandpoint. And I tell you, biggest joy. So Mary Stevenson had a poem I'm going to really quickly sum it up. It was a person walking with his maker down a beach. And he looks back at his life and he sees all these footsteps on the way. But he says, thank you for being through all my trials and tribulations and all my triumphs as well. But why, through the trials, did you leave me to walk by myself? He looks back, says, no, that's when I carried you. So, what memories are you going to have? Look within yourself. Are you leaving your desired footprint for the ones that follow?